And my part of talking will be quite short, and there will be a part that will be more interactive and give you as participants an opportunity to talk with me and with us and one another. So I highly encourage you to do so. The one thing I do ask is that you be patient. Lisa and I will circulate the room with the microphone, and I will also ask, because we are being videotaped, and this is a training that will be available infinitely online for others statewide and even perhaps outside of Wisconsin, to learn from all the great things that we do in Wisconsin, to learn about what we've done with our WisTech monies and resources, but also with some of the other monies and resources that we have available through the Department of Health Services. So this will also be an opportunity for you to teach back, to teach others about the great stuff that you've done. So check mark, I'm doing my job as a public health nurse educator, helping you to help us teach others about the great stuff that we do. So thanks everyone for having me today. For those that don't know me, my name is Mikki Hill. I am a nurse consultant for the state of Wisconsin Department of Health Services, Division of Public Health, formerly Division of Long-Term Care, in the Bureau of Aging and Disability Resources. No, this is not me up on the screen. This is my boss, Carrie Mulkey. I am in the Office for Promotion of Independent Living on the team, which is affectionately known as the Office for Physical Disabilities and Independent Living. And for those of you that have been in the network for a while, that was the team that Dan Johnson had started and ran for many, many years. And I'm so grateful to be here in Racine and amongst the folks at Society's Assets, because I know that this was where much of his work and lifelong work and journey began. So I want to say thank you all for allowing all of us at DHS to come here and share with others all the great work that really began with Dan. So Lisa Sobchik is the director in our office, and helps to oversee all of the programs and services that Dan Johnson once did. So at this point, I'm kind of giving you a little bit of the history, which I think is important. And one of the things that I do best as a nurse in my 30-year career as an ortho-neuro nurse, I've always been good at connecting the dots. And I think when you deal with people with traumatic brain injury and spine cord injuries, people that have cognitive impairments of all ages and their caregivers, is that you are able to speak simply and clearly and take really complicated information and make it simple and connect the dots. So to talk to someone or people in 15 minutes, especially after spine surgeons and rehab specialists and OT and speech and doctors and nurses and everybody else and your families coming, that's a really hard thing to do. But I think that this part of caring for people is the really cool stuff. So I love everything that we do on this side of caring for people, because this is the living life part. And there have been parts of my professional career where I've helped people who have been on the brink of life and death. And that has been the cool part too. But at this point in my career, this is the really fun part. So thanks for being part of the fun part. So this part of our journey here today is going to be talking about toolkits and resources. So you're probably wondering, with all of this training that we've had about AT and home automation and ethics and dementia and what Bonnie Nuttkinson from the Alzheimer's Association was going to talk about. What does all this have to do with us in the IL network and in the Aging and Disability Network? Well, a lot. So we're going to pull it all together. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to remind you that in this workshop, we've learned a lot about services and different devices and different resources that are available and new ways of thinking. And now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pull it all together, and we're going to learn about a few more things that some of you may have known about, little bits and pieces. Oh, hey, hi, Bonnie. I've got a seat for you right up here. We rearranged the schedule. I'm going to go until 2:55. Everybody, this is Bonnie. Bonnie, this is everybody. Right here you go. So I'm going to pull it all together, but I'd like to start off with a little true and false quiz. And this will also help you get your CEUs. Just kidding. So we have 5 questions. First of all, true or false? The state has an AT plan. True, thumbs up. Okay. If you gave a thumbs up, the answer is true. The state of Wisconsin does have an AT plan. Number 2, the state has a dementia plan. True, thumbs up. False, thumbs down. True. I see Janet's got her thumb up. And Bonnie has her thumbs up. This is true, and this is one aspect of what is also and affectionately known as the dementia redesign plan, of which we've had a couple, and we're probably going on the 3rd. But I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder who knows more than me. Number 3, the state has an aging plan, and this is different than your own plan. True or false? State has an aging plan. Thumbs up or thumbs down? True. Yes, and that's different than a retirement plan. That's one aspect of what the Aging Network does and a community assessment. All right, number 4. The state has a health plan, and I'm not talking a health insurance plan, and I'm not talking a health care plan like you get from your doctor. A health plan. Thumbs up. Oh, I see fewer thumbs. Ooh, this is scary. We are not a very healthy state, are we? Okay, the answer to this one is true, and this is known as Healthy Wisconsin 2020. And this has many health topics and opportunities for folks with disabilities and folks like us and our partners in the community and advocates to have conversations. Now, you're probably thinking, why do we even care about these types of plans? And I'm going to get to that in a minute. So how can we implement various aspects of these plans into our daily work? And are there resources and opportunities to help us integrate this into work with our partners? And the answer is yes. And why do we want to hear about toolkits and other products in Wisconsin and nationally? Well, the answer is it gives us a few resources to carry out aspects of these plans. In other words, this is where we take things back to our communities. The rubber meets the road, boots on the ground. All right, this is where we're going to start connecting the dots. So, toolkits are very public and community health oriented. Oh, a light bulb and not the Philips Hue should be going off now, because toolkits are not necessarily what you get at Home Depot or Sears. Although I know Sears has been closing down, so that's a concern for me. I love Craftsman tools and appliances. So let's talk a little bit about toolkits. Well, I just ruined it a little bit. What are toolkits? Does anyone want to take a stab at what a toolkit is? I'm going to pick on somebody. I'm going to pick on Bonnie. Bonnie, what is a toolkit?
Well, thank you, Mikki. I think a toolkit might be a group of resources put together for people to have readily available to utilize to help implement an idea or something in their community.
Thumbs up if you like Bonnie's response. I agree. A toolkit can also be items that first responders keep in their to-go bags to be able to carry out their plans of care for people in their community, right? So there are parts of toolkits that can be resources, there are parts of toolkits that can be ideas, and there are parts of toolkits that can be kind of tools or things. And then some toolkits even have tools, right? So one of my colleagues drew to my attention that when they first went to work in the IRIS program, they went to a meeting and they heard the word toolkit and they raised their hand. They said, we really wondered what was in a toolkit if somebody was going to put tools in a toolkit. So now I'm going to get a little Bob the Builder. When somebody brings up the word toolkit, you start thinking, can we build it? And I think in Wisconsin, regardless of what the health topic or challenge or initiative is, we say, yes, we can. So a real recent example of something that occurred in our disabilities community, there was a need to help those folks be better prepared for emergencies. So over probably 15 plus years, Dan Johnson and advocates had worked and worked and worked, and they had developed and revised what was known as an emergency preparedness toolkit. That is also a training that has been rolled out and available. But that is what this Go Bag has been part of, that emergency preparedness toolkit. And it has a variety of resources. So I won't touch on much of what those resources in that toolkit are, but that's just an example of one of the many toolkits and resources that we had. So I've got about a few more minutes and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys. So I've said, yes, we can do this. So I gave you each 2 folders. One is a toolkit from the Board for People with Mental Disabilities. The other is a purple folder, which has a variety of resources and examples of toolkits from DHS. So I'm going to go through those, and then I'm going to open the floor to talk a little bit with you. Kate, can you help me with that? So on the left-hand side of your folder, what you will see first are a couple of little cards. With those cards, you will see the card for one of our state office on aging specialist, Kristen Felton. She is the dementia specialist. You will see a card for music and memory. You will see a small business card for the dementia-friendly community toolkit. Keep these handy after you get back to the office. You'll want those for future reference and to perhaps call on after you maybe go back and talk with folks in your community and want to maybe think of a project that you want to do. Second, you will see a smaller, skinnier book, which is a dementia-friendly community toolkit. This was one of our first toolkits, which was funded by the Department of Public Health Brain Health Initiative. And it was, Barry is running towards me. It was a project which helped us to buy 1,000 toolkits. So toolkits cost money. So we were able to buy initially 1,000, and we had a rollout with these, and along that same time, we also had several other resources that rolled out with this initiative, including the next large booklet, which is known as the Guiding Principles with Dementia. And this was these are 2 documents which are part of the first Dementia Summit. And so the Guiding Principles are essentially 10 principles, of which Rob Gunderman spoke to a couple of them. And we had a whole DHS roadshow, and we had speakers, and these are aspects of that DHS and the federal government funded. It's how we partner with stakeholders and community members and even advocates and just interested consumers to bring these types of initiatives to local communities. Out in the lobby, I also brought posters, what we had left of posters, so I have enough for every attendee to get one of those today. I'm going to hold the posters up. I put them in my to-go bag as part of the toolkit. So the posters are rolled. Please feel free to take one. And all 3 of these items are available on our DHS website. Up here, if you go to the P under publications library, you can then order them. On the right-hand side of also, I'm going to go back to the left-hand side, sorry. On the left-hand side of the folder, there is a window cling, and it says, "We are dementia friendly." And this was one of the last items when I was overseeing the dementia project that I added. I ordered 5,000 of these because I got approval by the secretary. It took great effort. I had to get trademark and copyright approval, not only from the national vendor who created this, but also from the international vendor, and that trademark and copyright sits on file with the Department of Health Services. So the way that we have used this is it has been used in conjunction with the Dementia Friendly Community Toolkit. Now these are examples, all of these are examples of resources that you can use at your local level, right? For any type of initiative that you would want to roll out. It could be with the autism population. It could be with a traumatic brain injury initiative. But what we did with this window cling was we did dementia-friendly community business trainings so that we could have inclusive communities. And then communities developed a plan for follow-up with these businesses so that employees and so forth would be able to have ongoing training so that they would be able to recognize when people who came to their establishment would be in need. I also put some extra of each one of these items that were on the left-hand side of the folder out on the table because it is costly for us to put them in the mail and ship them to you when you do need extra. And not all of them are always available from our publication library. So if you did need extra, please let me know. If they were all gone out on the table and for some reason you needed more than one extra, which was available in your folder, please have a conversation with me after the training. On the right-hand side, there are just a few other examples. There are some things from the Million Hearts initiative. That's a really good example of an app to help with medications, a medication card which came out of the Emergency Preparedness Toolkit, and then some other resources that are more public health, but it also goes to show that part of the activities that we do in public health are to promote and educate and also inform and influence policy. So that's where you guys can come in. And any of these resources can also be helpful for you all to write for grants, write, RFPs, also write work plans for you all to roll out an initiative for you to do with community members. With that said, I'm going to stop. Yes, we can do this, but I'm sure that maybe I can take 4 or 5 examples of some things that you folks have done at your local level to give examples of using a toolkit or resources. And I'm like 3 minutes over, but I'm going to make the executive decision. We can take 4. So I'm going to start at this table up front, and then we'll just work around. Does anybody have an example they'd like to share? Local level, using kits or resources.
Good afternoon. As Mikki has said before, I'm the dementia care specialist in Kenosha, and so some of this material that you have in your packet here, especially in this purple folder, I'm quite familiar with. And I think one of the things about this dementia-friendly toolkit that everyone can relate to is when we work with someone with dementia or families of people who have dementia, we very soon realize how important inclusion is in the community. And the real value of this is, using this toolkit, is to increase the ability of our people that we're working with who have cognitive and memory issues to be able to continue to be part of that community. And so it's something that I can talk up, it's something that you can talk up, and I would encourage you to do that, to have conversations with businesses that you frequent, organizations that you're part of, and encourage them to become part of the dementia-friendly community and to find out more about it. And one of the ways they can do so is just by contacting their local ADRC.
Thanks, Janet. And that's Janet Hogan. She's the dementia care specialist at Kenosha ADRC in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Okay, can take maybe 3 more. Anyone from this table?
I am Becky with the Society Assets in Elkhorn. I did train the trainer for the dementia-friendly businesses, and then I had to go back and train 100% of our Elkhorn office. And then they came in once to let us know what needs to be changed in the business, if we could do that. And then they came back a second time to make sure what we could do was changed. These stickers are hard to come by because you have to earn them. So I hope that when you have them in your folders, you just don't put them up in your business unless you've been through Train the Trainer.
Thanks. That's a good point, Becky. Yes, if you have not been trained in dementia-friendly or dementia awareness, you have Kristen Felton, our dementia specialist at the States card, and she will be more than glad to provide you and your organization a training as well as ongoing technical assistance and support. I'm ready for my 3rd example. Any takers? No? Okay, Linda's informing me she's from Society's Assets, which tells me she probably has a great example.
No, I was really just going to say that Becky has worked really hard at that, and we're looking to do that in our other offices, and we're talking about kind of spreading it through throughout Racine and some other areas, and just making other businesses aware and potentially helping them to do that training. So,
you know, thank you for sharing that. I want to highlight an overarching theme with this and with the ADRC. It's an example of partnership and collaboration. And without that, we can't get our vital work for our consumers in Wisconsin done. And we can't get it done without the hard work of you folks. And it takes a lot for you to reach out to your partners out in the community. So one last one. Anyone at this table? Thank you.
My name is John. I'm from North Country Independent Living. And we've been using the Emergency Response Toolkit for people with disabilities with all of our consumers, but especially with our consumers in the personal care program, who want to plan better for when emergencies happen. And it's been a really nice tool for them to use, and they were really excited to get it and to have multiple copies. So people who are interested can really do that ahead of time and plan for their own emergencies.
Thanks, John. And so with that, I'm just going to wrap up and segue into Bonnie's introduction and section. But what I do want to say is thank you all for sharing your success stories. These are vitally important, and I'm going to ask ahead of time permission to share these as examples of success stories because Lisa and our office does often write annual reports, and we also share up with our leadership success stories for all of our partners. So thank you, and let's give yourselves a big round of applause for all the great work that you do.